America is trying to build a skyscraper so tall it would beat 1World Trade Center. And here's the twist. An FAA aeronautical study straight up labeled it a hazard to air navigation. The wildest part? This isn't New York. It isn't Chicago. It's Oklahoma City. So today we're breaking down America's boldest vertical gamble, the 1,907-foot Legends Tower. What it is, why that number is not random, and the 3 problems that could make this either history or heartbreak. Picture the US skyline in your head. Manhattan, Chicago, maybe a few West Coast giants. Right now, America's tallest is 1World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan, 1,776 feet to its architectural top. Legends Tower is planned at 1,907 feet. That's 131 feet taller. That's like stacking a 13-story building on top of the current number 1, and then looking everyone in the eye and saying, yep, we're doing it. So what exactly is being proposed? The project is called the Boardwalk at Bricktown, and its centerpiece is the Legends Tower, planned for the Bricktown district of Oklahoma City. At 581 meters, 1,907 feet, it's a true super tall, and it's close to the Megatall line, which starts at 600 meters or 1,968 feet. Legends misses that by about 19 meters, roughly 62 feet. Not huge, right? But it feels strategic, because going big gets you headlines, but going too big can drag you into a whole new tier of engineering, cost, time, and global scrutiny. Now the obvious question, why 1,907? Because Oklahoma became the 46th US state in 1907. So the height is basically a statehood monument that also happens to have elevators, restaurants, and people living inside it. But there's another layer. 1World Trade Center is 1,776 feet, another symbolic number. So 1,907 isn't just taller, it's taller with a storyline, made for civic pride, press releases, and shareable graphics. Okay, but what do you put inside a 1,907-foot building? Here's the interesting part. It's not just a tower, it's a vertical neighborhood, squeezed into less than 4 acres. Public reporting has put the overall development in the ballpark of $1.5 to $1.6 billion. And the design team's published data describes roughly 5 million square feet across about 3.92 acres. The plan includes 1,583 residential units, from workforce and affordable units up to luxury penthouses, 184 hotel-serviced residential units, 934 hotel rooms, and around 3,000 square feet of retail and restaurant space. And it's not only the Supertall. Around it, 3 additional high-rises are planned at roughly 345 feet, about 105 meters. That's not one building. That's a mini-city stacked vertically. And the rollout is designed to start smaller, for a reason. You don't jump straight to 1,907 feet and hope for the best. Phase 1 is supposed to include 2 23-story residential towers, Ruby and Emerald, and a 22-story Hyatt Dream Hotel. That first wave is planned at 716 apartments total, 576 market rate, and 140 workforce units. And the Dream Hotel portion has been reported as 480 rooms, plus 85 residential condos. So the pitch is basically, prove demand first, get people living there, get the street level buzzing, then if it's working, go for the headline tower. Now, why Oklahoma City? Because on paper, it's the ultimate skyline shortcut. Oklahoma City's current tallest is the Devon Energy Center, about 844 feet. If Legends Tower hits 1,907 feet, it doesn't just set a record, it more than doubles the city's tallest height in one move. Most cities grow their skylines step by step. This is more like teleporting to the big leagues. Overnight, it would redraw the mental map of American skylines. One day, OKC is a city with a respectable downtown. The next, it's in the same sentence as Manhattan. That kind of attention is addictive and expensive for a city chasing a bigger, louder identity, and that's exactly why the internet can't stop staring at it. But this is where the story stops being about vibes and starts being about limits. Problem number 1. Airspace. In December 2024, the FAA's Obstruction Evaluation Group issued a formal Determination of Hazard to Air Navigation for the Legends Tower study. It's a detailed aeronautical study letter with elevations, coordinates, and impacts on flight procedures, and it states plainly that the structure at the studied heights would have a substantial adverse effect on navigable airspace. The FAA letter lists the site elevation at about 1,194 feet, and it studied a top height around 2,932 feet above mean sea level, AMSL, which works out to roughly 1,738 feet above ground level at that site in that specific analysis. So if you're thinking, wait, why doesn't that match 1,907 exactly? Welcome to the world of roof heights, architectural tops, spires, crowns, and what precisely got modeled. The FAA isn't judging the tower's branding. They're judging how high a physical object sits in real airspace. And this site isn't isolated. The letter places it roughly 5.09 nautical miles from Will Rogers World Airport's runway end 17L, about 5.70 nautical miles from Tinker Air Force Base's runway end 13, and about 7.33 nautical miles from Wiley Post Airport's runway end 31. In other words, it's inside a living flight network. The study also notes the structure would exceed certain Part 77 obstruction thresholds by more than 1,000 feet. And then it gets technical in a way that really matters: instrument procedures. These are the routes and minimum altitudes aircraft depend on, especially in low visibility. One example in the letter describes raising a minimum obstruction clearance altitude from 2,900 feet to 4,000 feet on an arrival segment. That's not a small tweak. That kind of change can ripple into longer approaches, different descent profiles, more fuel burn, more congestion, and fewer options when weather gets nasty. It can even change how efficiently aircraft can be sequenced in and out, which affects everyone, not just one flight. And reporting on the review says the FAA received far more objections than endorsements. 20 letters objecting versus 2 in support. So when people say, "This tower is fighting the sky," that's not poetic, that's paperwork. Now, quick reality check. The FAA doesn't pour concrete. A hazard determination isn't always a hard stop by itself, but it can absolutely chill financing, insurance, and long-term approvals, because money hates uncertainty. If lenders, partners, and insurers can't see a clean path, they hesitate, and hesitation kills megaprojects. So what options does a developer have? Basically 4. Cut the height, reshape the top, move the highest point, adjust the crown or spire, move the project, which is basically starting over, or push through mitigation and procedure changes with aviation authorities, which takes time, leverage, and patience. And here's the trap. The tower's identity is the number 1,907. Cut it too much, you lose the headline. Don't cut it, and you may be stuck in an aviation fight you can't brute force with steel. Problem number 2, physics. Once you get past roughly 300 meters, about 984 feet, skyscrapers start acting less like buildings and more like engineered machines. Structure, wind, elevators, water pressure, power, fire safety, everything becomes a system that has to cooperate. Wind is a big one. And no, this isn't the lazy, a tornado will knock it over take. Supertalls are designed for extreme winds. But Oklahoma's storm reality does change the conversation about resilience, shelter planning, and how comfortable people feel living that high in the air. You're not just selling square footage, you're selling confidence. Then there's sway. Every Supertall moves. The real question is how much, and whether your brain can tolerate it at 2 a.m. on a windy night. That's where you get stiff cores, outrigger systems, deep foundations, and sometimes tuned mass dampers, giant weights that counteract motion. And then elevators. At 134 stories, vertical transportation isn't a nice extra, it's the building's bloodstream. You can't just run one set of lifts to every floor without wasting huge amounts of space. So Supertalls use express elevators, sky lobbies, zoning, and stacked mechanical floors. Even water is complicated. Pressure can't just climb forever. So you split the building into zones, with pumps and tanks stepping the water upward. Problem number 3, the market and the timing. The Boardwalk at Bricktown isn't being sold as a lonely tower. It's being sold as a destination. Retail, restaurants, hotel life, residences, a whole district vibe. If it works, you don't just get a tall building. You get a new gravity point for Oklahoma City, a place that pulls people in day and night. But if it doesn't, you risk building phase 1, and then never climbing to phase 2. And that's the nightmare scenario. A half-finished vision, frozen in place. That's why phasing is both smart and scary, because the Supertall isn't a yes or no switch. It's a sequence of bets. Phase 1 has to lease. It has to stabilize. It has to prove demand. Only then do you even get the credibility to ask the market for a 1,907-foot tower. In New York, Supertalls plug into global capital, dense transit, constant tourism, and a skyline where height is normal. In Oklahoma City, a 1,907-foot tower would be an outlier by design, so the market question becomes unavoidable. Do you really have the long-term demand for that many units, that many hotel rooms, and that much retail in that spot, at that scale? Now zoom out. Globally, the tall game is brutal. Burj Khalifa is 2,717 feet. Merdeka 118 is 2,227 feet. So 1,907 feet doesn't win the planet. But it would still be a monster. And the contrast is the headline. A city whose tallest is 844 feet, proposing 1,907. If Legends Tower ever gets built, it would surpass 1World Trade Center. And it would even rise above the CN Tower's 553-meter height. That's iconic territory, the kind of height people recognize instantly, even if they don't know the numbers. So what's the real verdict as we move through 2026? Legends Tower is still a proposal, with real design work, real program numbers, and a real phase plan. But it also collided with one of the most non-negotiable rules in modern city building. The sky is regulated, and the FAA hazard determination shows how complicated that gets. Reporting in 2025 suggested the developer still intended to start with the smaller towers first, while working through the Supertall's height issues. So here's what to watch next. 1. Airspace. Do we see a revised height, a redesigned top, or a clear mitigation path? 2. Phase 1 progress. If Ruby, Emerald, and the Dream Hotel go vertical, that's a signal the foundation of the plan is real. 3. The boring stuff that matters most. Money. Not headlines, not renderings. Actual contracts, actual pours, actual cranes. Because in skyscrapers, the only proof is what rises out of the ground. And here's the final thought. Even if Legends Tower never reaches 1,907 feet, the attempt already changed the conversation. It pulled Oklahoma City into the global skyscraper chat. And it exposed the truth about tallest in 2026. It's not just architecture, it's politics, money, psychology, physics, and airspace. So the question isn't only, will America build the tallest tower? The question is, what will America sacrifice to do it? If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like, and subscribe for the next Mega Build deep dive. And comment below, should Oklahoma City chase the tallest tower record, or walk away? Yes or no? What's your reason?